I'm really glad to see that everybody's here. Today especially, I thought it'd be a really good April Fool's joke to leave the preacher here to preach to an empty auditorium, and I'm glad that nobody else had that idea. So thank you. Endings are always difficult. I hate it when I get to the end of a good book or a good TV show. I'm always kind of depressed, kind of melancholy. There's just no more of it to watch, no more of it to read. Parents know that endings are difficult. We have children who graduate next month. A new phase of their life begins as another phase ends. When loved ones die, it's not easy to say goodbye, even when it's not sudden. The kind of finality of ends kind of just overwhelm us. This week, we pay special attention to the reason that we meet here every single week. What God has done in Jesus Christ. In Jesus, God put an end to sin and death. But in order to grasp that this morning, in a way that might be more effective, more powerful, I want to enter into the imaginative space with you, to try and put ourselves in the sandals of those who are actually there. Listen to my story. My name is Thomas. And that last week was a whirlwind. I remember that when it all went down, I was devastated. We tried to warn Jesus. Judea wasn't safe. After he had run in there and turned over tables and spat fire at the hypocrites, they were liable to kill us all. But Jesus got word that Lazarus, his friend, had died. And he wanted to go back. Jesus wanted to go back for a dead man. Doesn't he know when it's over? The man's not just sleeping, he's gone. But Jesus was determined. So I said, fine, let's go die with him. From there, it was nothing but chaos. As we arrived, Mary and Martha came to greet us. I met them before, and they were mourning over Lazarus, but Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. And sure enough, Jesus brought him up out of the grave, and the town went wild. They all believed what we had come to know, that Jesus was the coming Son of David, destined for the throne. He taught righteousness. He brought the law of God to the people. And it was only a matter of time before he called the people to him and threw off the oppression of the godless Roman pigs that crush our spirits, that tax us into oblivion, and use the fruits of our labor to honor pagan gods and fill the treasury of Caesar. The King of Israel was here, and he was here to make Israel great again. With the sign of a dead man coming back to life, the people of Bethany got the message. They began to grab palm branches, and they followed us into the city of Jerusalem. These palms of the Maccabees that they had raised hundreds of years earlier, the symbol of their revolt from long ago, they became banners for a new Messiah, the Messiah, Jesus. I had expected Jesus to rebuke them, to tell them not to tell anybody what he had done, as Jesus had told countless others before. But he didn't. In fact, he encouraged them. He sent us to grab him a donkey for him to ride on. Just as the scriptures say, rejoice greatly, daughter Zion, shout, daughter Jerusalem, behold, your king is coming to you, righteous and having salvation is he, humble and mounted on a donkey. You see, Jesus, he encouraged them and rode into the city. He knew what message he was sending. that this was the time. The King was here. Hosanna, Hosanna, Lord, save us. And as you might imagine, this didn't go unnoticed. The Jews, especially those loyal to Rome, began to mutter. We all saw them, but it didn't matter. The people were on our side. The Passover brought pious Jews from everywhere into the city of David. And they were ready for the king, even if the schmucks who run the temple weren't. And they wouldn't dare draw the wrath of the kind of procession that they saw follow us in. Or so we thought. We celebrated the Passover in a quiet room. And afterward, Jesus went to pray by himself. I mean, in the middle of this chaotic mess, I don't blame him for going off by himself. And honestly, he did this all the time. But this time would be different. There was a traitor among us. They surrounded us before we even knew they were there. And this, I knew it, that this would be the moment. This was the time where Jesus would fight back. He would move with power, as we all knew he would. But he didn't. And they took him. He didn't fight. He didn't call people to his side. He didn't revolt. He just let them win. Everything we hoped for came crashing down. We scattered. They broke him. And they beat him. The one we thought was the great king, the son of David, they stripped him naked. And they put a crown of thorns on the head that deserved a crown of life. The man we thought would finally bring an end to the Roman oppression was executed as an enemy of the Roman state. Labeled an insurrectionist and a terrorist, he hung bloody and naked on a Roman cross. He suffocated, gasping for air, still speaking mercy and kindness to all, and finally he breathed his last right in front of his mother. And that was it. We left our families, our businesses, our lives to follow this man because in him we saw something. We saw hope. We saw something worthy. We saw something, but we were left with nothing. And that we were scared out of our minds. If Jesus had been labeled a rebel and killed, it was only a matter of time before they came for us. It wasn't safe to travel. We decided to hide in plain sight. The crowd in Jerusalem became our refuge. And we stayed off the streets as much as we could. We never knew when they would come and drag us away. Peter seemed to be more shaken than any of us. He seemed to bear more than shock, but also shame. Mary took it hard as well. She was there with us. Jesus had healed her. She was demon-possessed, but Jesus came and he changed her, just like he changed all of us. And she was desperately trying to find some way to make things right, to repay just some of the goodness that he left her. And after a few days and a long silence, she spoke. I will finish caring for his body. Mary, he's gone. Don't risk it. They have soldiers guarding the grave. What if they know you followed him? We know what they do to terrorist sympathizers. Stay. We've already lost Jesus. We don't need to lose you too. We couldn't talk her out of it. She went early while it was still dark and we were asleep. I think she knew that we might try and stop her. There was only one kindness left that she could show Jesus, and she would not let anyone stand in her way. She came back shortly after we woke up, and she burst into the room. He's gone. They've taken him. At this, Peter and John ran. They said they found linen clothes laying in the tomb, but Jesus was indeed gone. We went back and we tried to figure out what purpose they had for him. Would they display his body as a deterrent? I hope not. His mother has already been through enough. We didn't know what was going on, but as we considered these options, Mary burst through the door again and crying, she said, "I have seen the Lord." No. No, Mary. He's gone. We all wish he was here, but I know when it's over. We tried to calm her down, but nothing would stop her. She insisted that Jesus had spoken to her. I told the rest of the disciples that I'd go and grab some food and water for her. Perhaps she was hallucinating from lack of nutrients, lack of food. And when I returned, apparently the hallucination was contagious. Because they all said that they had seen Jesus. And that he was as real and solid as you or me. But I know when it's over. I know when it's the end. I saw him nailed to the cross. I saw him pierced. I'm not going to live in denial just because it might make me feel better. Jesus taught me better than that. The truth is the truth, no matter how harsh. Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and can put my hand into his side, I will not believe. And Jesus delivered. 8 days later, we were together again. And then suddenly, though all the doors were locked, in comes Jesus. Peace be with you. He was more glorious than my friends had described. But he wasn't blemishless. I looked, and I could see his wounds. I could see the nail marks, and his side ripped. But these marks of defeat and shame did nothing to diminish his glory. In fact, the glory itself seemed to shine out from them. Put your finger here. You see my hands? Put out your hand. Put it into my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe. Jesus met my demands. He didn't chastise me, but he demonstrated that I could not have been more wrong. It was not over. The end was not the end. Death was swallowed up in victory. Now, this was Thomas's story, but it's also our story. The resurrection of Christ proclaims powerfully that the end is not the end. Maybe you find yourself this morning thinking that you're at the end. Maybe you feel like your life is in a place that is so far from where you should be or where you want to be that you have no hope of ever getting there. Jesus says to you, I was in the grave, and now I sit on a throne. Maybe you think your marriage has dissolved into a never-ending cycle of bitterness and resentment, and you feel like there's no way to get back what you once had. It's over. Jesus says, touch my hands, feel my side. I'll tell you when it's over. Maybe you've made so many bad decisions in your life that you feel like you've become useless and hopeless. You're in the grips of bad decisions, of addiction. Jesus says, God raised me when I couldn't breathe, much less crawl out of the grave. The end is not the end. Jesus, for the glory set before him, endured the cross. The cross is not the end. It is a path. You this morning who've lost hope, endure. Pick up your cross. Start taking those small steps to get where you need to be, even if it will take a billion steps. Move your feet. Follow Jesus to Calvary and to his glorious purpose for you. The end is not the end. You whose family life or marriage has dissolved into bitterness, endure. Love when it's hard. Love even when you can't feel love back. That's the cross. That while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. He showed us a better way. He redeemed what is broken. Do that for your family. God calls your family out of the chaos it's in into the picture of his glorious peace and vision for the world. The end is not the end. The beauty of Jesus' resurrection is that it doesn't deny the cross, it redeems it. The glory that God is calling us all into is not a denial of our pain or the legitimacy of our struggle. Jesus' scars didn't go anywhere. The scrapes and bruises that are a source of shame for you now as you bumble your way to where God has called you to be will become marks of glory where God has done great things. You see, when God raised Jesus from the dead, he did not just change the eternal destination of mankind, but he gave us a new trajectory for life. We must model the gospel. The good news that life can come out of death. That we can pick up our crosses and watch as God changes what is broken in us for his glorious purposes. We can stop doing the things that make us less of who we are and put an end to our lives that were slaves to sin. Be baptized and walk with him. The end is not the end. It's only the beginning. Maybe you need to make that start. If you need to, the water's ready. Maybe you made that start a long time ago, but you've gotten off the path. Maybe you need encouragement. Maybe you need prayer. Maybe you need us to encourage you. Whatever you need, this is the time. Would you come as we stand and as we sing?